Hi guys, this is Sheldon, and in this video series I will try to go over each class on Turtle WoW, covering all their changes, their new abilities, and how these might affect their capabilities in both leveling, PvE and PvP, as well as how they might create new opportunities for new builds and playstyles. And in today's video, we'll be taking a closer look at the rogue here on Turtle WoW. Take a look at the rogue here on Turtle WoW and see what they've changed when it comes to the rogue. So let's read the words here at the beginning and then we'll dive into it. There weren't a lot of changes done for rogue in our first batch of class change. Similarly to hunter, rogue has a specialization that works fine aside from a few pain points. One that's spot on flavor wise but falls short gameplay wise, and one that lacks proper identity and tools, especially in a raiding environment. These specializations being combat, assassination, and subtlety, in that order. We plan to tackle all these issues in their respective sections. So I'm not really sure what they mean by falls short gameplay wise, because I've always thought, not hunter, rogue is quite strong in both PvE and in PvP. But let's dive into it and see what they mean by this. Baseline changes. Combo points will no longer vanish upon switching target. Okay, nice. But instead reset when applying combo points on a new target. That's a sorely needed thing, because in vanilla, if you tap to another target, you lose all of your combo points. So that's nice that they've done something about that, so you don't just remove. And I think they did the same. I'm going on a whim here, but I think it's in Burning Crusade that they did this. And then later on in many later expansions, they moved the combo points to the rogue. So the combo points were on the rogue instead of the target, which is actually, in my opinion, probably the best thing to do. But then again, there could be problems with that. You loading up, like just in the same way as a paladin loads up a reckoning bomb, you could do the same as a rogue, but they would just, in my opinion, maybe give it a short lifespan, so it only lasts a few seconds if you're not in combat. Maybe that would fix the problem. But I like this, at least it's not too invasive, and I think this is something that everyone's gonna like. Rogue can now wield one-handed axes. That's very interesting. So giving some extra options for weapons. I think that's good. I don't see an issue with this, other than now rogues compete more with warriors, especially on the horde side, because warriors on horde side usually go for axes because of the axe specialization. But now, since specialization wise, skill wise, might not be a big issue anymore, then this might not even be that big of a problem. Ghostly Strike is now baseline and learned at level 20. Interesting. Heightened Senses is now baseline, learned at level 30, but no longer reduce your chance to get hit by attacks. Its stealth detection increases is equal to the fully talented version, the subtlety talent. Alright, so heightened senses. Oh, it's this one. Increase your stealth detection and reduce the chance you are hit by spells. So it now just increases your stealth detection. By how much? We don't know, but it just does. So it increases your stealth. So this makes it more advantageous to be a rogue in a stealth versus stealth class scenario, right? Because then if you fight a let's say a druid and he's also prowling and stealth, then a rogue would, since that's his speciality is being stealth, he'd have a greater chance of finding the druid than the druid have of finding the rogue. So I think fantasy wise that probably makes sense. But it's also quite strong. So, but anyway, that's very nice. Sinister Strike energy cost reduced from 45 to 40. Developer comment. This change was done due to combat's improved Sinister Strike talent going baseline. So apparently they got something else, probably. Oh, they got swift strikes instead. Some attack speed. Fine. New poison, corrosive poison. Each strike has a 30% chance of poisoning the enemy for X physical damage over 12 seconds. Stacks up to 5 times on a single target. 105 charges. Rank 1 is 100 damage. And then it seems like you find a book and then you rank up to the next rank for a little bit more damage. The Handbook of Deadly Poison 5 now also teaches rank 2 corrosive poison. I see, so it's the same book now. Rogues that already know deadly poison 5 will retroactively be taught corrosive poison rank 2. Developer comment. This poison deals slightly less damage than deadly poison, but its corrosive properties allows it to bypass conventional nature and poison immunities. That's why, allowing poisons to be a dependable factor in the rogue's arsenal no matter the opponent. Okay, so that's me again, very much of a PvE mindset. If you go into different raids, the bosses might be immune to poisons. So instead of just not making the bosses immune to poisons, they're going around it in another way by giving a rogue a poison that does physical damage instead of poison damage. Not something that I thought the not the hunter, that the rogue would need. But I guess that's cool. New ability, Deadly Throw, finishing move that causes thrown weapon damage plus an additional damage per combo point. They're getting Deadly Throw like the one from the Burning Crusade. 5 combo points, so much damage, 35 energy cost, 30-yard range, requires a thrown weapon. And if you remember from my first video about the changes, I covered that thrown weapons now do not lose a charge, they just lose a durability, and you can repair your thrown weapons now. They don't need it, they don't function like ammo for a hunter anymore. They just function like a normal weapon that apparently I think loses durability on each throw. Developer comment, this ability was introduced in the first batch of class changes, but its addition replaced the original surprise attack, which was not documented when the changelog was first released. So we are including this addition for brevity's sake, and the fact throwing weapons have seen a rework, making this ability much better to use without permanently losing your weapon. I think this is really nice for rogues, having something to do when they get kited, when they come at distance. This is something that the rogue probably needed. Not that I would say that the rogue needs much in terms of utility, but since everyone is getting buffed, then I think this falls in line with that, and probably won't be too overpowered. Sprint and evasion cooldown reduced from 5 minutes to 4 minutes. Developer comment, this cooldown reduction was done due to endurance talent from the combat tree being removed. This way the majority of the talent's benefit is preserved and granted to all rogues regardless of their specialization, while opening much needed room in the talent tree. Yeah, probably the rogue had a lot of options in the talents and has actually a lot of good options in the talents. So I don't know if this was needed, but I guess that's fine. Wound poison now reduced effectiveness of any healing by 5% per stack. So it's a percentage, wasn't it? It wasn't a percentage before, was it? Stacking up to 5 times instead of reducing the target's healing power attribute. All items that were crafted above the first rank are now obsolete and have been converted into the first rank. Okay, so there's only one rank of wound poison now, and before it was just a fixed amount of healing that it would reduce. Now it's a percentage per stack, which I think makes a lot more sense, but also is quite strong. Developer comment, changing how wound poison functions allows it to counter more healing sources, primarily those that didn't have any healing power scaling, such as healing potions and effects that spend non-mana resources for healing, such as frenzied regeneration. While envenom is active, this effect is increased by 25% like other poisons, allowing each stack to reduce healing by 6.25 instead of 5%. So there are some talents that buff even this poison a little bit. Crippling poison rank 2's slow amount has been reduced from 70 to 60%. Yeah, I think crippling poison was the strongest slow in the game, and it's been reduced a little bit, I think fairly so. It's in line with I think it's the hunter's wing clip and some other slows in the game. Developer comment, this change has been done due to the poison being more debilitating than that we would like, and the envenom boost on this effect would be too effective if the slow amount was kept the same, ramping it up to 87% slow while active, where now it's raised slightly above to its pre-nerf value 75. So it's actually, if you go with, and I guess envenom, they mentioned this before, I think it's a new talent that's coming, looks like something down here probably, and it's gonna boost, isn't envenom something? Yeah, it's not something they had before. Yeah, okay, it's the capstone, last capstone of the assassination talent tree, which increases your poison chance and effectiveness by 25%. Duration increased per combo point, so giving you some strong poisons instead of the previous one, which was vigor, just giving you 10 more energy. That's still in here, it's just been moved over here and made into a 2 talent point talent and does something else. But we'll get to that, getting ahead of myself. So these are the baseline changes for Rogue, and now we're diving into specifics with Assassination. This specialization is in a pretty good place flavor-wise, but struggled to find its place as a viable damage dealing specialization due to a few reasons. The first big issue was that poisons were contending for their spot as a temporary weapon enchant with Wind Fury Totem. And if you watch my Shaman guide, you will see what they've done with the Wind Fury Totem and how it works now, and also what they've done just in general with the Shaman. And they've done a lot of changes with that, especially enhancement. So go watch that one if you want to understand what's going on here. With the latter generally being better than poisons. This has now been solved with the totem becoming an aura instead of a weapon enchant. The second issue is that poisons were not applicable in all content, as some creatures have high resistances to the nature spell school as an outright immunity to nature poison, such as elementals, mechanical creatures, dragons of nightmare, and Solnios. This is probably a new world boss, I'm guessing. The last issue was that its last cornerstone, Vigor, was especially niche, only seeing use in player combat, nowhere else, meaning PvP. We plan to remedy this by introducing a new capstone, moving Vigor in row higher and giving it new ability functionality. So here we have Vigor, and increase your maximum energy by 5 and then 10%, and gives you 100% chance to gain energy when applying a poison to your target, gaining 5 energy for each time you apply a poison. This effect can trigger only once every 8 6. Okay, so it's not that powerful again, but it's still better than before, where it was just 10 energy and you wouldn't probably really go for it. There is a build where you as a rogue would go get Seal Fate and get improved backstab and then get opportunity, but that's suspect that's for really late game dagger rogue. Once you are covered in AQ/Nax gear, then you would go for this build and it would be viable in raids and also quite strong in PvP actually. But else you'd probably go for a full combat build, and that would be viable even late game. Now they're making changes, so maybe we'll see more assassination rogues and maybe even subtlety. You probably never went for premeditation as a rogue, neither in PvE or in PvP, because it's just not strong enough. So they've probably done something with this, but we'll see as we get to it. So very nice, very interesting. Already I think that rogues had a lot more choice, but now they seem to have even more choice, so that's great. Good for the rogues. Remorseless attacks duration increased from 20 seconds to 40 seconds. Okay, so that's going to be much easier to get to the next mob, because sometimes if there was a lot of traveling time between two mobs, this would fall off before you reach the next mob. So this is quite good for leveling this talent, and now it's been buffed a little bit, so it may be even more worth it now. Ruthlessness proc chance increased from 20 40 60 to 33 66 and 100%. And ruthlessness was this one, yeah, and that's been increased, so it has a 100% chance now to add a combo point after you do a finishing move on your target. And already you would probably take this one or murder, depending on whether or not you would like to have improved slice and dice or not. And usually I'd go for this, especially because I'm doing PvP a lot, so I prefer the chance of another combo point. That's more impactful than anything else, and than a 2% damage increase. But now it's 100% chance, so it's less RNG, which actually I like. If you want to invest points into a talent, I like it to be a little bit more deterministic. And in general, I like things to be a little bit more deterministic than what they are in vanilla. I don't think that the reason vanilla PvP is great is because there's a lot of RNG. I like some RNG, but not too much. And I think especially when it comes to talents and your talent point investment, you want them to be deterministic in a way that you feel like, okay, this does this without exceptions, right? So I think I'm for this change for sure. Right, moving on. Improved slice and dice renamed to improved blade tactics, and the text has been changed to increase the duration of your slice and dice and flourish ability. And I think, if I remember, flourish was from the previous set of changes as well, and is a parry. No, it's a parry thing, yeah. That increases your parry chance. I'm pretty sure it is. Developer comment: there's no functional change. This is done to clarify the talent description. So maybe it did this already before, but it just didn't say that it affected flourish. So now it says so. That makes sense. Throwing weapon specialization moved from the combat 5th row to assassination's 4th row, and now gives your deadly throw a 50-100% chance to interrupt the target for 3 seconds. Developer comment: the interrupt was added during the first batch of class changes, but wasn't listed in the change log. I just want to see what this talent did before. I'm just logging into my row to see what this is. Combat, here it is. Increase the range of your deadly throw and deadly throw by 3 yards, and gives your deadly throw, once a 2-point invested, a 100% chance to interrupt the target. So it's actually the same thing, but didn't they say that it had been changed? It does the same thing, right? The interrupt was added during the first batch of class changes, but wasn't listed in the change log. Okay, so it's just listed now, it seems. But that's this one, throwing weapons, which is now being moved into assassination. So it's here. I think it's right there. Yeah, it's states right here, throwing weapon specialization, increase the yards of your throw and deadly throw, and give your deadly throw an interrupt on it. So you can actually interrupt those pesky mages that blink away and fight you. So that is pretty strong, but you also need to invest some points into assassination to get that. But you would probably go for a similar build in PvP as you would usually do, especially once you're not really that geared. You'd go get your cold blood likely, and then you'd go get your preparation. But we'll have to see. I haven't gone this far yet, but for now, that's a nice, neat little thing that the rogues, I think, needed, in my opinion. I don't know about the rest. I think rogue was already quite strong in both scenarios, but let's see what else they do. Vile poisons now requires 3 points instead of 5 points. So vile poisons, that's this one, and up to 20 and 40%, and it's actually the same amount, just requires less talent points, a lot less talent points. Okay, and improved poisons is also now a 3-point talent instead of a 5-point talent, which is right beside it right here. 10% increase chance of applying your poisons. Improved kidney shot removed and replaced with taste of blood. Okay, it must be this one here. Using your Rupture ability grants you Taste for Blood, which increases your damage done by 10% for 6 seconds, plus 2 seconds per combo point spent. So some strength for Rupture. Then maybe they did they remove Rupture, the buff for Rupture in here? No, there's still a buff for Rupture in here. That's just serrated blades that's been moved up a little bit. So now you can actually get access quite easily to both of these. Very interesting. New talent, Taste for Blood. Yes, that's the one. Developer comment. This talent grants assassination a possible extra combo point dump they can use in the situations they have an overflow of combo points and still have both their slice and dice and envenom selected. This effect will be applied no even if the target resists or is immune to the effect Rupture. I think the no is a typo and just says applied even if the target resists or is immune to the effects of Rupture. So you're getting 10% extra damage no matter what, even if the target is immune to bleeds. So it's not completely worthless. And with 5 combo points, that's going to be a 16-second buff. New talent, Efficient Poisons. 5th row, 3 points. Reduce the chance your poisons will be resisted by 12% and give your poison applications 45% chance to not consume a charge. Okay, so you're getting some efficiency on your poisons, and reducing the chance will be resisted is most likely primarily for PvE. But didn't Rogue already have a talent that did this? No, that's poison damage and additional chance to resist the spells. Now it's just basically some extra hit chance on your poisons. And where is it? That's efficient poisons. Okay, the one you need to get the capstone. Reduce the chance your poisons will be resisted by 12%. Poison application, blah, yada yada. 45% chance to not consume a charge. So they're diving deep into this poison build for Rogue, making sure that it's actually a viable thing. And now even more so than before because the changes to Wind Fury tools. So I think that's going to be interesting. And yeah, I don't think any of this as of yet is completely game breaking in terms of PvP, but you can definitely see that the Rogue is getting slightly stronger here and there in PvP with many of these changes. And I don't think I have Flourish on my Rogue, so I can't even show you guys Flourish, and I'm not sure how to get it actually and how it functions on Turtle WoW, but I think it's the same functionality that it has in Season of Discovery, giving the Rogue a chance to parry. Vigor moved from the 7th to the 6th row, now requires 2 points instead of 1 point and gives you 100 chance to gain 5% energy when applying a poison to a target. This to affect the trigger only once every 8 seconds. We already went over this one, but let's read the developer comment. This revamp to Vigor gives it functionality outside of maximum energy increase, giving it a reliable source of energy regeneration to compete with Adrenaline Rush in the long run. I see. Instead of this massive boost in energy, you're getting some energy over time with this talent, making going deep into assassination more competitive with combat. New talent, Envenom, 7th row, capstone finishing move that increase your poison application chance and effectiveness by 25%. And we already went over that one. It costs 25 energy, so that's quite cheap to cast actually. That's nice. Is that in line with the other energy finishing moves? It's in line with Kidney Shot and Slice and Dice, and Rupture, not with Eviscerate. That one's a little bit more expensive. Developer comment, effectiveness means that it increases the damage for damage dealing poisons, slow amount, crippling poison, and healing reduction for wound poison. So it just affects all your poison poisons, basically. I don't think they didn't write anything about mind-numbing poison, but I would guess this is just etc. down here, right? It says, or maybe it's not going to do anything with mind-numbing poison, which is a poison, for those who don't know, that slows the casting speed of casters. So that's a great poison against mages. But it doesn't say anything about it, so I'm not sure if it's considered in this, but I think it is. Probably all poisons, or else it would say something with specific poisons, right? Which the talent doesn't. It just affects all poisons. Yeah, effectiveness, which is very interesting. They're getting some extra power in that regard, and you can definitely see just by looking at the. Now we're moving on to the combat, but you can definitely see just by looking at the talent tree they've received. Seems like they've received some extra talents up, right? Yeah, fourth or third row has some extra options. The rest is probably the same. Actually, seems like it's just one extra talent that's been added. But just look at the rogue talent tree and compare it to, especially compare it to the shamans. There are many gaps here. There are really not a single row in elemental that has 4 options. Every single one of these has either 3 or 1 or 2 options, right? And there's a single row here that has 4 options in enhancement, and there's a single row here also that has 4 options in resto. So that's what I'm talking about when it comes to adding more talents. I'd like to see just more options for all classes, especially the classes that are, in my opinion, lacking options, which in my opinion would probably be the elemental shamans, lacking some options. I know they got something new here, but they also got some nerfs. So this is not a shaman video. It's just go watch the shaman video if you want an in-depth guide on that one. But moving on to combat. This specialization is the bread and butter of all rogues in original vanilla, and in the current iteration of class changes, we are overall happy with the state of combat, but that does not mean it doesn't have its fair share of issues. Mace is being behind other weapon types in performance due to lacking a power-increasing weapon specialization talent, improved Sinister Strike feeling like a mandatory talent, and combat's rotation lacking variation. We aim to solve these issues alongside some changes to Blade Fury, aimed to grant other specializations the option of a cleave cooldown. So the point here probably being that they've moved Blade Fury up a notch, so other specializations have access to it without going full combat, which actually I think makes a lot of sense. Improved Sinister Strike now baseline and therefore replaced by Swift Strikes. See baseline changes. Yes, we covered that before. New talent Swift Strikes increase attack speed by 2%. Yes. Improved Backstab now also gives your backstab a 45% chance to award an additional humble point. That seems really, really strong. So basically, your backstab now can give you 2 combo points. And if you combine that with Seal Fate, that's a 3-point energy spender. Half of the times where you're going to do it from behind, you're going to get 3 points. That's quite erect, in my opinion, and maybe a little bit too strong. I don't know. It seems like a lot of rogues probably going to go dagger roads for PvP. That seems quite strong, actually. Setup. Well, moving on. Setup moved from subtleties 4th row, combat's 3rd row. Setup. As you can hear, I'm getting less and less knowledgeable about the classes as we move forward. But that's this one, and it's been moved. Where was it moved? Into the combat tree. Oh, so it's in here now. And that's probably to give them some PvP, some extra PvP utility, because I don't think many go to combat for PvP, right? Not that it can't be done. It can for sure be done, and Adrenaline Rush is really strong in PvP, but this probably is fine to give rogues a little bit extra in the combat tree and just redistributing talents, basically switching things up. So I'm all for that, and it doesn't seem to have been improved in any way. It's the same. Yeah, it seems like it's the same chance to add a combo point. Usually I didn't go for this talent, but maybe if it's in the combat tree, then might be a fine thing to have there, some extra options there. And basically just removing the arrow here, meaning now you don't have to pick the extra hit in order to get your dual wield specialization. You can actually skip the hit if you get this. Like, say you just need 2% hit because you have the rest from your gear. Might as well just, like, not likely that you're gonna have so much hit that you wouldn't want it, but anyway, you can skip it if you don't really care about it. Maybe for PvP, you probably don't really care that much about having some extra hit, but now you don't need to get this in order to progress to the next one. So that's I think that's a very nice little change. Blade Fury moved from the 5th row to the 3rd row, but no longer grants 20 attack speed baseline. I see. So there's a little bit of a nerf here. Developer comment, this change allows all specializations to have access to a cleave cooldown, which was not possible before due to Blade Fury's placement. Yes, that's correct. As a note, Riposte is still in this talent row as an extra capstone and has not been removed. So yeah, there we have capstone of Riposte. It's just been moved a little bit to the left where it was right here in the center before. And it seems like it does the exact same thing it did before. But this is also probably done, removing the attack speed is probably done to not waste it on a boss fight, right? Because of course you would want to use it on a boss fight because that's just 20% more attack speed. But now you don't have it for an AoE fight because now it's on cooldown, and say you're no longer torn on when to use Blade Fury as you were before. Before you would always want to use Blade Fury on a boss fight because of the attack speed. Now you want to save it for its actual purpose, which would be a cleave fight. So in a way, I like that they've removed it, and it's probably been moved into the second the capstone of this, which is a new talent that we'll get to. It seems like it's been moved in here, but a little bit less strong. But also now it reduced the cooldown of your Blade Fury. Let me just check. What is the cooldown? It's 2 minutes, so it's been reduced to a 1 minute cooldown. So that actually brings it a lot more value in PvE. So I think overall that's a fine change. I like that, sure. Mace specialization renamed to concussive blows and moved up from the 5th row to 4th row. No longer grants weapon skill to maces. Developer comment. The stun component has been made a separate talent due to maces now being included in the close quarters combat talent, and the random stun sometimes interfering with fights such as Balgard Satura, and that's from AQ. And I actually didn't know about this problem. I've never raided with a rogue that were using maces and having some interference. I don't really know what this interference is, but apparently there are some problems with that talent. And okay, so let's see what they've done instead. Corrosive blows after dealing. So it's basically just the same, but apparently, yeah, the skill component has been removed, and it's still a 3-second stun, so it's the same as before. And where is this close quarters combat? Oh, that's this one. Close quarters combat increase your chance to get a critical strike with daggers, fist weapon, and maces. So completely remove this plus skill to maces out of the talent tree. Oh, they put it into weapon expertise instead. So now weapon expertise actually gives plus skills to all weapons, which makes a lot more sense. So again, going back to having more options, which I'm definitely for. For now, up until this point, I really like all the changes to the rogue. Maybe they are getting a little bit too strong at some points, but hell, we don't know anything yet, and every class is getting buffed. So I don't think these are out of line in any way, especially for the combat trait. Seems really fair. The only exception being improved backstab. That might be a little bit too strong, but I don't know yet. Probably not for PvE, but I'm talking about PvP, of course. Always, my mindset is always PvP first. And I've gone over the reasons why I think that should be the focus before PvE balance. And I've gone over that in both the Hunter, the Shaman, and the Paladin video. So go watch that one if you haven't already. And I talk a lot about why I think this is the way to go. But moving on, close quarters combats include maces and now requires 2 points instead of 5 points, increasing your chance to get a critical strike with daggers, fist, and mace weapons by 5%. So that's a really strong talent now, actually. I think some dagger combat rogues would go for this talent, but now it's even more valuable than before because that's a lot of crit while not having to spend many talent points. So again, something that's maybe on the edge of being too powerful. Should have probably been a 3-point talent in my opinion, but new talent, surprise attack, 5th row capstone, a surprise strike that deals 120 damage, only usable after the target dodges, awards 1 combo point, 10-second cooldown, 10 energy cost. Okay, that's very interesting. I'm actually not a fan of these only usable if you get some RNG thing going. So, but let's read what they say here. Developer comment, this attack is triggered on your next attack like Heroic Strike or Raptor Strike. Surprise attack intends to make combat feel more active than it was before, rewarding the rogue for keeping their eyes peeled, similarly to warriors overpower. Isn't this just gonna be macroed into every single ability and then just automatically spammed? Because that's what they usually, that's at least what I usually do with Riposte. It's just macro it into my Sinister Strike or whatever, and it will automatically apply it if I parry an attack from a mob. I can see its effectiveness when leveling for sure, because you're probably going to get a lot of dodges while leveling. But anyway, it's interesting, and it's definitely better than just having Blade Fury right there, right? So getting Blade Fury, or the ability to have Blade Fury earlier, I like that. Sword specialization renamed to Hack and Slash now also includes axes, and now requires 2 points instead of 5 points. That's strong, giving you a 5% chance to get an extra attack on the same target after dealing damage with your either sword or axe. But I still don't want to have maces into this one, so I would like to see maces into this maybe. But then again, if you went with both Hack and Slash and corrosive blows, that would probably be way too strong. So I see why they have to leave maces out, or else they just need to completely remove this talent and then add maces into Hack and Slash for more PvE options, because now maces is gonna be your de facto only for PvP thing, right? And there we go, the new talent Blade Rush. We already looked at this just a little bit. Reduce the cooldown of your Blade Fury by 60 seconds, and your Blade Fury increase your attack speed by 10% instead of 20% for the duration. So it's you're gonna get uptime on your Blade Fury a lot more now if you go full combat. And I like they separated them a lot, so it's not just a one row separation. Now if you go for a Blade Rush, probably want to go full combat, right? So there are still some benefits other than the weapon skill increase and adrenaline rush in combat, in deep combat. And of course, Hack and Slash is quite strong as well. There are many things in deep combat that are still appealing. Yeah, and it seems like there's also some changes on aggression here, but we'll get to that. Weapon expertise now gives weapon skill to maces too. Yes, we went over that one before. That's this one here. Weapon expertise affects everything now. Sword, fist, mace, axe, and daggers, which before was only sword, fist, and dagger. So mace and axe has been added into this one, which is great. You want a lot of options. And here we have aggression damage buff increased from 6% to 10%, and now also includes post and surprise attacks, or surprise attack. Surprise attack being this here, and that's a 10% extra damage. So that is very strong now. Something you definitely want if you go deep into combat, which I don't think could be said before. At least it wasn't as powerful before. So now it's a lot stronger. And now moving on to subtlety. This specialization lacks both identity and falls off in performance in raiding environment due to not being able to use their openers after their stealth and vanish are spent. We've considered abilities that will solve this, such as Shadow Dance, but after lengthy talks, the conclusion was that Rogue did not need another flavor of dealing damage, and we've gone ahead with quite a different approach, a specialization that focuses on supporting their allies. Okay, that's very interesting. Due to this new direction, Subtlety has seen a slew of new talents and changes to existing talents to lean into this direction, doing decent damage themselves but excelling when they're boosting their allies with their tool. Keep in mind that the majority of the damage talents were left intact, so this change would not harm any of the existing builds used for player combat, meaning PvP, that utilize this specialization's talent tree. Okay, so they're keeping the options that you had before while adding something extra. That's really interesting and sounds good. Master of Deception's merged into Camouflage. So Master of Deception has been merged into Camouflage right here. So that's gonna look like this. Oh, you're getting it earlier now. You're getting it as the first row in Subtlety. Reduce the chance enemies have to detect you while stealth, increase your speed by 15%, and reduce the cooldown of your stealth by 5%. So this is a lot easier to get to for all rogue builds, right? So that's very nice, very interesting, and very, very nice. Now for sure something that you would want for PvP pretty much always, I think. Sleight of Hand removed. Sleight of Hand. That's this one here. Reduce the chance you are critically hit by melee and ranged attacks by 1%, increased threat reduction of feint. That's also a very boring talent, and I don't think it was picked a lot. So I don't see an issue with this. I think that's fine. And what else is there? Improved Ambush moved from the third row to the second row. Now refunds 15 energy if the ambush does not critically strike. Okay, so that's also extremely interesting. They did something not only with the backstab, but also with ambush. So you dagger rogues out there are gonna get some buffs for sure. Getting some energy back if it does not critically hit is gonna feel a lot better, because not critically hitting ambush, and especially with a backstab, it always feels really bad, especially if you're highly geared. You want those crits, you want to see those crits because you're gonna have a high chance. But now there are some benefits, even though those do not crit, so it's not gonna tank your damage in that way. Serrated blades move from the 4th row to the 2nd row, now also increase the damage for your garrote by 30% alongside rupture. So serrated blades also quite easy. There's a lot of nice things to go for now in the subtlety tree. A lot more interesting stuff. I can see this is really going to be the utility spec talent tree. Initiative proc chance increased from 75 to 100%, and that's the extra combo point that you had before. Now instead of 75, it's 1%. So again, I like the less RNG that there was. A lot of RNG in the rogue talents. There are still some with setup, still a lot of RNG, but I can see when popping your evasion, it's going to be a lot of combo points if it's 100%. But then I would fix this by giving this one an internal cooldown instead, just like they did with Vigor, right? There's an internal cooldown that you could do the same with setup, and then just have it a guaranteed combo point if you dodge or resist a spell to make this one even more interesting to get, right? And I still don't think it would be too overpowered as long as the internal cooldown isn't too short. Ghostly Strike baseline now learned a level 20, and we already went over that. It's quite interesting. They're going into giving Rogue some extra, even though they're not really lacking any melee abilities in my opinion, but they are getting an extra now. New talent improved Ghostly Strike. 3rd row, 3 points. Your Ghostly Strike has a 100% chance to increase your party members' chance to dodge 3% for 7 seconds. Developer comment: the dodge cannot be stacked via preparation, recast, and multiple rogues using it in the same party. Okay, so that's for this one here, and it's probably to give your tank some extra avoidance, I'm guessing. It's not much, but yeah, it's probably nice to have. Next one here, new talent, Smoke Bomb. 3rd row keystone. Creates a cloud of thick smoke for 8-yard radius around you for 8 seconds. All targets inside the smoke have 20% reduced chance to hit by attacks and spells for the duration. 5 cooldown, 35 energy cost, and reduced chance by 20% not only with attacks but also with spells. That's actually quite powerful in PvP, and it has some synergy with setup, which would give you combo points if you resist spells. And I'm guessing that standing in this and not getting hit by a spell actually is the same as resisting it, or am I misunderstanding something? I'm guessing you can't really miss a spell either. It doesn't miss, right? It's just either it resists or partially resists or just hits with its full damage. So quite interesting with this one, and not as overpowered as Cloak of Shadows. Something interesting, something extra nice to have when trying to cap a flag in a Raffibasson or something like that. Hemorrhage moved from the 5th row to the 3rd row. Now only has 1 rank and grants 2% increased physical damage dealt instead of a flat value. Amount of charges increased from 30 to 50. Energy cost increased from 35 to 45, and now subject to weapon normalization. Somebody who knows and understands Rogue on a deeper level than me, comment below. What does this actually mean? Developer comment: these changes should make Hemorrhage a more reliable support tool that scales with gear, as it's now a percentage-based increase. The energy cost increase compensated for with the Bloody Mess talent deeper entry. Now we have to see what they are talking about. Bloody Mess: reduce the energy cost of your hemorrhage by 10 and increase the physical damage dealt bonus of your hemorrhage by 100%. So you're going from 2% to 4%, and the energy cost is back to 35. Okay, so you're still being able, so it's the same as in combat. They're creating a gap here, meaning that if you want to have the full advantage of hemorrhage, then you want to go deeper into subtlety, and the same goes for Blade Fury. If you want the full power of Blade Fury, have deep. So that is nice, I think. New talent, Irritating Agent. 4th row, 3 points. Reduce all damage dealt of targets hit by or blind by 6% for 8 seconds. This effect is guaranteed to a blind even if the target is immune to poison or blind if resisted. Misses. Right. Reduce all damage dealt from targets by a... So again, giving basically you're giving blind some value in PvE and not only in PvP. So this is semi defensive cooldown for your tank tanks as soon as the raid boss is gonna burst at some point. Rogue hits him with a blind and it reduces the damage a little bit. Combine this and all of these things with talents like Bulwark of the Righteous and other utility stuff, then it becomes some, like, probably a lot extra damage that you are mitigating, right? Developer comment: the hit chance reduction is applied. What are they talking about? Hit chance reduction. The hit chance reduction is applied alongside the disorient effect itself. This is done to minimize the effects in PvP while being a formidable tool to use on powerful creatures and bosses that are immune to disorient effect. The irritation effect is separate from this disorient effect. That is a new physical debuff that does the effect. Yeah, so you're just trying to say that it won't be this effect won't be resisted even if blind is being resisted. But I think the hit chance reduction they're referring to is damage dealt instead, right? This is just a type. They mean 6% damage reduction, which is a lot less powerful hit chance reduction. Whereas it irritating agent reduces damage dealt by the target. Yeah, so it probably was hit chance at some point, but then redone to damage instead. New talent: blinding haze, 4th row, 3 points. Targets hit by your distract have their chance to hit reduced 6%, 5 seconds. This effect is guaranteed to be applied. Developer comment: this works similarly to the irritating agent talent, applying a separate physical debuff with this effect. I can see that this might be a little bit too strong in PvP. I know it's only 5 seconds, so maybe not actually. But as a rogue now, it's a real use for distract, and not only for some gimmicks and sending people over the bridges like Peo does, but actual use when fighting warriors and other classes that go into melee. Combine this with your evasion and it's an even greater chance of follow up after evasion, just to have some extra mitigation. I don't think it's too much, but they are giving, like, I see rogue having a ton of extra utility that they didn't have for. Heightened senses, now baseline, learned at level 30. We talked about that before, I think. That was the stealth detection thing. New talent: dust of disappearance, 5th row, keystone. Throw a pouch of vanishing powder at a friend player, reducing their threat by 20% and reducing the chance for enemies to detect their presence for 5 seconds. When the effect is cancelled or expires, the next damaging spell or ability will deal 15% more damage. 2 minute cooldown, 30 IG range, 25 energy costs, and 1 flash power. Okay, so that's interesting. Maybe this is used for this can be used on a healer in a fight, or somebody who is getting some extra aggro and you want to reduce their threat. Can also be used maybe when pulling a group of mobs, because if it reduces the chance for the mobs to detect your presence, maybe you could walk past some mobs or closer to some mobs without pulling them. So I can see some different niche use cases for this ability, but this is clearly once again a PvE focused thing. New talent: bloody mess, 5th row, 2 points, reduce the energy cost. Hemorrhage, yes, we already went over this one. That's the increase power to hemorrhage. But let's take a look at the dust of disappearance. That's right here. Throw a pouch. Yes. I wonder if you can throw this one on yourself, because it is a damage buff on a specific ability, and combine this with either eviscerate plus the 15% you already get on eviscerate. So that's gonna be a 30% damage increase on eviscerate. That's quite a lot actually. So I can see if you throw this on yourself, that's some real powerful burst. You would probably combine this with gold blood, making just 100% crit chance on your eviscerate plus the 15% plus another 15%. That's maybe too strong if you can apply this to yourself, but it says friendly player, so you probably can't throw this on yourself. Let's hope not. So I'm guessing that it's going to be a little bit too powerful. Already rogues are stun locking and one-shotting. So deadliness removed, that's this one. That's in tech power increase, so that one's been removed. New talent: honor among thieves, 6th row, 2 points. Physical critical hits by party members within 20 yards grant you energy, 5 energy. This effect can only trigger once every 2 seconds. That's still really strong actually. That's gonna help you a ton with your damage. Oh, it's only party members. Sorry, I was reading in my head. I was reading raid members. So only party members, meaning that the warriors in your party or other rogues probably want to be in the party with the other rogues, especially rogues with daggers, because that's a lot of procs, right? So dagger rogues probably gonna be reserved with this one, because then it's probably gonna be 100% uptime or something on this. Anyway, moving on. New talent: tricks of the trade. I've heard of that one before. 6th row, 5 points. Your opening and finishing moves have a 20% chance per combo point to increase your party's chance to critically strike by 2%, 10 seconds. Stacks up to 2 times times. Developer comment, this effect cannot be stacked by separate rogues and just refreshes the duration. So even another, that's very interesting. So you actually want maybe 2 rogues in a specific party, especially a party that benefits a lot of from critical strike chance. I'm wondering if this is benefiting both spells and physical critical strike chance, or if it's only one. So to have a 100% uptime on this, that's why I was talking about having 2 rogues, because 10 seconds isn't a lot, but maybe it's enough actually for you to keep uptime on it, because it's on your opening and finish. So it's all your finishing moves. It's not a separate attack. It's all your finishing moves are just going to add. So it's probably easy, quite easy actually, to keep a 100% uptime with just 1 rogue in your party, and even stacking it to 2 times, meaning a 4% critical strike chance increase. You're definitely going to want a subtlety rogue in your party now, because it's a lot of extra output your raid is getting from rogues if you combine all the stuff they're getting, especially the damage plus increases from hemorrhage, and there's some extra crit chance and stuff like that. Especially this one, that's strong. Premeditation has been removed. New talent, exploit vulnerability. 7th row capstone, so the last talent, a marking strike that deals 135% weapon damage and informs your party members of the target's vulnerabilities, increasing their damage dealt by 15% for 6 seconds, about 2 combo points. Okay, it has a 3-minute cooldown and a 40 energy cost. Let's read developer comment. This buff does not stack. Reapplying it via preparation or another rogue is using it will only refresh it. I think that's that's very fine. I think if it would stack, it would be way too overpowered. Updates, so they added some changes. Improved backstab now also gives your backstab a, yeah, that's the, they already added this actually into the developer notes. Close quarters 2 points instead of 5 points, and hacking slash also. So that's what they changed on October the 21st. They added some they made some changes, and apparently for the rogue it was buffs. So very interesting. I think for sure rogue is still gonna be quite strong in PvP and quite menacing. Let's have a look actually on the talent tree. That's your tricks of the trade talent. This is the honor among thieves. You definitely probably want both of these. I'm guessing this is also going to apply to yourself. And then you have exploit vulnerability. It's quite an interesting ability to have. Gives you 2 combo points, does a lot of damage, and puts a debuff on the target. All right, let's try and see if we can come up with some builds. I'm gonna try to come up with something different, and we can theory craft our way to figuring out if maybe that would work or maybe it wouldn't. I think that for sure you're gonna want in a raid environment, you're gonna want some subtlety rogues now. But let's to begin with, try to go for a PvP oriented spec, deep sub PvP spec, and see what happens. Sure gonna want that one. And if we go deep into subtlety, I probably wouldn't want to go with a dagger spec, because this is weapon damage and you want a slow weapon for this one, and we want the capstone here. We want exploit vulnerability. So I'm gonna skip improved ambush, and I'm gonna go with this instead. We're gonna go with hemorrhage. We're gonna go with initiative, smoke bomb. Might as well take that. Only 1 point. This probably won't see much use in PvP, but sap, and I think blinding haze will probably. I'm quite interested in knowing if this is going to apply the damage buff to yourself. It probably isn't, but just in case, maybe we'll take this one as well. We'll see how many points we have, but we want these 2, and I think we want this one as well. And this would probably be fine to have in a battleground environment, but I think that this might be more worth your opening and finishing moves, 100% chance per combo point to increase your party's chance and likely yours chance to crit. I'm actually a bit torn between these 2. This could end up being stronger, but then you have to stick with your party for the most part. So I'm imagining a battleground scenario now in say a Raffi Bassin. You would want to stay close to your party members for this to have an effect. So it's a within 20 yards, and 20 yards actually isn't much. You'll have to be very close to your team for you to benefit from this. So because it's a 20 yards, I think I'm gonna skip on that, and I hope this will apply to yourself. And we're going with an 80% chance, should be enough. Then we can get Dust of Disappearance as well, and then exploit vulnerability. And this is a 3-minute cooldown, and I think that Cold Blood is also a 3-minute cooldown, isn't it? Yeah, Cold Blood is also a 3-minute cooldown. So it actually might end up being better, this one, than Cold Blood, basically, because on this one you also get 15%. So it's premeditation. You still get the 2 combo points, and I think is premeditation also a 3-minute cooldown. Actually, it's a 2-minute cooldown. Yeah, it's a 2-minute cooldown. This one also has the debuff, and it does damage, and it can probably crit fairly high. So it's maybe this will be the go-to instead of Cold Blood now, and that probably also really depends on the amount of crit chance you have. If you have a low amount of crit chance, you probably want to go for Cold Blood. So in the early stages of the game, and if you're low geared, then Cold Blood will be the go-to probably, and then exploit vulnerability as you get better gear. Also, this is without taking into consideration these other poison talents and Deadly Throw, which is actually quite strong, probably even stronger than these two in PvP. So maybe you would end up going with a stopping at preparation and then going into assassination for the rest. So let's try to do this one, proof eviscerate, lethality, still want relentless strikes, I think. And now we got 4 points left, and I think that for sure we want throwing weapon specialization. And then we have 2 points left, and that would probably have to go to improved gouge. So this is what I think we would end up with if we wanted to go for a deep salty build that wouldn't use, probably we wouldn't be using daggers with this build. We could try to move a few things around and see how it would look with a dagger build instead. Let's just try to do that. Then we're going with something like this for now. Serrated blades might be good as well, or elusiveness. I think I'm gonna go with elusiveness, get preparation, and then see what we have left. We want for sure improved backstab now, so we have to get that, and there we go. Maybe get some in assassination. Still want lethality, I think, for sure. Maybe even Cold Blood, but I don't think we can get Cold Blood, can we? Let's try see if we have enough points for that. We do, actually. And then we got 1 point left, and we probably just put that into Dust of Disappearance, or it could be Dirty Deeds. Really depends on how you want to open. We already went for improved ambush, so maybe Dirty Deeds is kind of but then you have the opportunity to open with a kidney shot, or I mean a chip shot instead of an ambush. But you would probably, if you go with a build such as this where you get improved ambush, I'd suggest using ambush, sure, in your openers. So Dust Pit Disappearance it is. Could also get that 1 point into hemorrhage and maybe get that 1 hemorrhage going. I don't really think it's gonna be worth it. You could also skip improved ambush only, and actually also preparation, and go with a combat assassination build. Let's try that. We still want opportunity, sure. Get some extra hit for PvP. I wouldn't pick Blade Fury. I'd want kick. Some might say repost, but I find it to be unreliable a lot of the time, so I'm gonna skip that. Price attack, and for 2 points we're getting a ton of crit. And maybe when we are this deep into combat, maybe even going for adrenaline rush instead of Cold Blood, that's likely gonna be worth a lot more in terms of just raw power and output. And how much is the cooldown? That's a 5-minute cooldown though, so I'm a bit torn between Cold Blood and adrenaline rush for PvP. Let's try see how much can we keep in here, because I actually want to keep throwing weapons, but I'm not sure if that's even possible. No, it's not. So you're gonna have to skip throwing weapons if you want adrenaline rush. And now I think for PvP at least you're sacrificing these two, and that's a bit too much just to get adrenaline rush. But this would be a nice build for your PvE combat dagger build. Remember guys, I'm not as knowledgeable about the rogue as I am about the shaman, paladin, and hunter. And as we get to the rest of the classes, I get less and less knowledgeable, so I wouldn't really know what to do. There are so many cool builds you could go for as rogue. Just the thing I really like about rogue at this point is there are so many different types of builds that you could go for, where you mix and match in between talent trees. I think rogues have always had a lot of meaningful choices, while your hunter, shaman, and I'm guessing many other classes more or less have more like cookie cutter builds, talents that they definitely want and then talents that they definitely do not want. So for rogue, there are just a lot of interesting choices. So this is just the amount of options that Rogue has, not only when it comes to PvE, but also for PvP, is what I would love to see added for the other classes. Meaningful choices that where you are in a position where you're like torn between, okay, should I go this way or should I go this way? And it could be either way, they are equally good, and less obvious choices. And just fill up the talent trees, fill them up with a lot more talents. But that's it for Rogues, guys. My overall thoughts are that Rogues got some really, really nice buffs. They are probably likely still gonna be one of the best PvP classes in the game. And now they also bring a lot of utility, and there's a reason to bring other specs than Dagger and Deep Combat Rogues. Now there's reasons to go deep into assassination and subtlety. So I think for your rogues out there, you have a ton of options now. And I for sure think you would want a subtlety rogue in every raid with all the nice buffs that subtlety is giving to your team now. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me, what did I get wrong? What did I overlook something? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video.
The turtles. Where are the turtles? Where are the turtles? Come on, guys, get out of here. Where are the turtles?